Hi, my name is Lori D'Angelo, and I'm a reporter for the Daily News Record. And today I'm going to be talking about some lesser known Christmas films that you might decide that you want to watch this holiday season. I had like a couple of criteria for these films. I didn't want them to be like well known holiday classics. For example, I did not want to include um, A Christmas Story or like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation or things that you probably were already watching every year with your friends or your family. So I basically looked through a bunch of streaming services and watched a bunch of movies. Some of them I clicked on and decided not to watch because I didn't think they were that great. Others um, where it's kind of like, oh, it was okay, but I don't think it made the cut. So, I mean, basically, I wanted to pick, none of these movies are like really particularly dark, but what kind of like spurred this whole thing was every year when I was a kid, Channel 22 in Pittsburgh, I believe it was WPTT, which I don't think exists anymore, used to have a Toys for Tot drive on Christmas Eve. And every year they used to show The Bells of St. Mary's. And so The Bells of St. Mary's is a classic film with Ingrid Bergman and Bing Crosby. Ingrid Bergman plays Mother Superior in the film, and Bing Crosby plays a priest who is sent to the Catholic school where Ingrid Bergman she's already like teaching there and leading the nuns. But they kind of clash over a bunch of things like if how what should you do if a student is trying really hard but they fail? How should you help a student who's being bullied? But then they also have to work together to try to basically try to secure property for the school that needs repairs because they need to figure out what they can do and if they can get like this wealthy donor who is also kind of a miser to help them out or not. And so the film is about these conflicts, but it's also about the relationship between the two of them. And there is a Christmas scene. Like it's a very cute Christmas scene. So for that reason, and because like the film is kind of about relationships and generosity, many people, especially me, consider it to be a holiday film. Other people do too. It's not as debated, I would say, as like Die Hard, where people have very militant feelings. I'm not sure that people are arguing that strenuously over a 1945 classic film with Bing Crosby and Ingrid Bergman, but I think it's a good one to add to your list. But the way that I kind of came up with this idea was that I used to watch that every year, but then I kind of realized that maybe I should like branch out and watch some other films. Not that I didn't, but that like I knew everything that was going to happen, and so kind of took away some of the fun. So this list is just some other films that I kind of discovered that are maybe less well known. And so what I did was I just kind of looked through several different streaming services. So I looked at Netflix, I looked at Hulu, I looked at some made for TV movies, and I kind of came up with this list. Before I go over this list, I also want to point out that if you have not looked at classic holiday films, A Miracle on 34th Street is definitely worth your time. Last year, I think, I made my son, who's now 16, watch it. I'm not sure if he really appreciated that, but it's a really good film. You have Maureen O'Hara, who plays Mrs. Roberts, who is divorced, and she really isn't feeling the magic of Christmas, which is really interesting because it was made in the 40s. So it's tackling that issue. And she works for Macy's, and she needs to find a new Santa for her parade because her current Santa is like drunk, and so their guy like kind of saves the day. That is actually not I'm not sure. Oh, it's a colorized version. I'm looking at a graphic. It's actually a black and white film. Hopefully it is the old version with Natalie Wood and Maureen O'Hara, and not the new remake. That was made in the 90s, which I really don't like at all. But if you haven't checked out that movie, I would say it's really worthwhile because it kind of deals with the magic of Christmas and relationships, but in a way that's interesting. Okay, in terms of classic movies, the other one that I will mention as well is It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life It's interesting, but I also think it's kind of problematic. It is kind of dark, and so I wanted to kind of not go down the road with these movies. And I talk about that why a little bit more about why that is in my column that I wrote for the Daily News Record. So I kind of talk about more of the detail about how and why I watched The Bells of St. Mary's. But It's a Wonderful Life is a well-known film, and it has its pros and cons. I used to watch it, and I've seen it many times, but I also just kind of wanted some more recent films. So, like, all of the films that I have on this list, I have 5 films, were made in the last, I believe all of them were made in the last 10 years. So, from like 2016 through, I think I go through 2023. So, none of them just came out because I didn't want these to be movies that like everybody was talking about. But I wanted them to be movies that people who enjoy holiday films might want to take a look at and perhaps haven't seen before. And so these are all kind of more recent ones. Like when I was younger, I had watched some older ones with like Doris Roberts, who played Mrs. Miracle. And I didn't include those because I don't know how easily you could find those. And there are also some other ones where Peter Falk played an angel. There's a couple of those. And I had watched those at one point in time too. So these are kind of movies that have to deal with family and relationships and connecting with people and kind of finding out what people want out of life. And I think that they all do a good job of, in some ways, yes, they're all like kind of happy, feel good, but without being like super predictable and cliche, although they do have some formulaic elements. They are Christmas movies, not like dark, literary, soul-searching, angsty movies. So number 5 on my list of Christmas movies is A Christmas in Vermont. And this was made in 2016. It was a made-for-TV film, and you can stream it on Peacock. You may find it other places as well. Like if you have other apps, it's possible that you might be able to find it there. So what this film is about is the main character is Riley Thomas, and she works for a company that's trying to save money. So she's sent to this like beautiful, picturesque small town in Vermont to shut down this outdoor clothing company, which is kind of like, it seems like LL Bean or something. But while she's there, she kind of like connects with the people in the town. And one thing that makes this film interesting is that Chevy Chase plays like kind of this Ebenezer Scrooge type character. And if you've seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, you know, he is kind of like the main character, but in this movie, he's kind of like the mean character. So I think that one's worth checking out for that alone, just to kind of see Chevy Chase in a different role in a Christmas film. So that is number 5. Moving on to number 4. Number 4, I found on Netflix, and it was made in 2023. So it's called Best Christmas Ever. And that film features Heather Graham and Jason Biggs. And both of them are known for their earlier work. She is known for some of her film appearances, as well as guest starring on the TV show Scrubs. And then he is known for the American Pie series. So both of them have done some things, but I don't think they've done as many things recently. So in this film, they play a married couple, and they have kids. And she is getting this like basically Christmas newsletter from a friend, Jackie, who is played by Brandy, and it's like really over the top. It kind of suggests that Jackie's life is completely perfect and she feels like her life is not. But through a series of things that happen, Heather Graham's character ends up going to visit Brandy's character, and they kind of reconnect with each other. And it's funny too. So I think it's worth watching because it deals with some things like, you know, the pressure that people feel to be perfect and feeling like they haven't realized their potential, but it also has some nice humor in it. And I think the actors are actors that you may be familiar with from some of the other work. So that is number 4 on my list. Moving on to number 3. This one is on Netflix, also just like the last one, Best Christmas Ever. So this one is A Christmas Inheritance. So this is a slightly older film. It is made in 2017, or at least I guess that's when it came out. And so it is about a woman who's kind of known as a party girl, and her father he owns like a company and he's getting ready to retire, and he wants to leave the company to her, but he's kind of not sure that she is ready for it. So he sends her like on this mission to try to complete this task, and if she can do it, then he is kind of more willing to leave her the company. And so one thing that I think is interesting about this particular film is that Andie MacDowell is in it, and she plays like kind of a family friend. And Andie MacDowell is well known for many other films, but you may know her from Groundhog Day, which is kind of a classic holiday movie, not about Christmas, but about Groundhog Day. So it's set in the winter. So it's kind of nice to see her back in a different holiday film. So this one, I think, I like because there's like some nice moments where Ellen, who's like kind of rich and sheltered, she's the main character, kind of has to like come to terms with some everyday life situations that she hasn't really thought about in depth. So I think that kind of makes it kind of stand out and not be as like cheesy per se as some holiday films. So that is number 3. And you can look at this complete list as well as find out more detail about these movies if you check out the column that I read about them in the Daily News Record. So if you just go to the Daily News Record website and look for this Christmas column article, you can read all about this in more depth. Number 2, Reporting for Christmas, is about a reporter, which I can relate to somewhat, although she's a TV reporter. So she gets assigned the story that she doesn't want to do, and I think that all people, whether they're reporters or not, can relate to having to do something at work that you're not super excited about. So she is living in Chicago, the big city, and she is assigned to go to the small town in the Midwest to write about this toy company. And she's kind of like, yeah, do I really need to do this story? It's lame. I don't think it's worth doing. But she ends up like trying to do the story as like a legitimate news story, not just like kind of like a piece that's basically meant to appeal to the advertisers. And she ends up meeting and connecting with the son of the toy company owner. And so, yes, it like many of these films, in fact, maybe sort of all of these films have a storyline that involves like connection and discovery about like priorities in life, which I like this film just because I thought that the acting was good, but it also was relatable, at least to me, because it deals with the journalist. And I thought it was like well done in tackling the subject matter. This one you can find on Hulu, which is where I watched it, and I believe it's also on Disney Plus, but we don't have a subscription currently. So one of those places you should be able to check it out. And you may also see some familiar faces. I believe I mentioned those in the column, so you might want to check that out. And then finally, I have the like top film, which actually, ironically, is a Hallmark film. Which I was trying to include movies that maybe you wouldn't have heard of, but also like there were not films that have the same actors that appear over and over and over again in Christmas movies, and that's pretty much all they're known for, to the point where you can predict the whole entire plot of the movie. Some of these do have like basically tropes of Christmas films, but one thing I really thought that made this movie stand out, like I think it would stand up as a film, not just as a Hallmark film, is the fact that it has some, I think the acting is good in this one, and in some cases, as you may know, made-for-TV movies are not always great in terms of that. So the female lead in this movie is Julie Benz, and she is known for being Dexter. Obviously, this is a completely different type of film than Dexter because it's a holiday family film. And then Michael Shanks is well known for his role in Stargate, which is a long-running Canadian science fiction series, but he has a lot of acting experience, so he's the male lead. And Julie Benz plays Amanda, who her husband was in the military and he passed away. So she kind of has a hard time with Christmas. And then Michael Shanks' character is a current soldier, and he ends up renting a room from her, but he's also trying to kind of heal from past trauma. And so I think it's like a nice movie because it deals with some emotional issues, but I don't think it deals with it in like a super over the top ridiculous way. It's a sweet movie, and I've actually watched it more than once, which I mean, no, you can do that with movies that aren't good as well, but I think it is worth checking out. So if you have limited time, I would say check out the top 2 on the list, and if you want to check out some of the others, none of these movies are like really dark, as I said earlier. So if you're wanting like Christmas horror, this list isn't that. But I think if you're wanting to just kind of see some pretty well made holiday films that you may not be aware of, then you may want to check out this list. And if you get a chance, also read the column about it in the Daily News Record. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed our special Daily News Record Christmas film podcast.